today we have a coasting sweep. And so what I'm going to do is I pretty much changed the chassis. The sweep still coasts. So that rules out the contactor. Could still potentially be like the capacitors and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and just change out the gearbox and the motor, just to kind of show you how to do that. But what you're going to pretty much need is, obviously I've got a Westinghouse gearbox. I use these with approximate relays to install tabs. That way you don't have to go in and reverse the sweep wire, reverse wiring. What you're pretty much going to need, a 9/16 ratcheting wrench or socket, whichever one, a 1/4 inch Allen head for the bolts. I'm bringing in the 5/16 for the motor head, which are those screws right there. But I'm also bringing the 7/16 and the flathead, so that if I have to adjust the cams to raise and lower the sweep stopping point, I can do that as well. But let's go ahead and break this motor off and gearbox, and let's change it out. So now we're in front of the machine. Obviously you have your sweep and your table gearbox. Table relatively the same way. You do have to lower the table and support the table on the block or something like that. But you'll do the table gearbox the same way you're going to do the sweep gearbox. And the first thing we're going to do, and the machine is on, the manager's control switches are all on, is we're going to lower the sweep down to guard. And the benefit of an empty chassis is I can literally push this button and move the sweep. If you have a solid state chassis, you can crank it down by hand using the motor crank, or you can do your SA. That's really going to drop the sweep down. Once you get the sweep drop down, you're going to unplug this, and it's fairly simple. These are 9/16 size wrench. Will take that bolt off, and then I think it's like a 5/16 Allen head holds that, and you're going to pry that off. I'm going to start taking these three off, and we'll go from there. All right, so like I said, 5/16, 9/16 on the nut, or 14 millimeter if you don't have it. Real simple. 3 bolts. They come off. I may speed this up in the editing process. But you take that off. You slide it up here. These are kind of tricky to get to, but they're back in behind the machine. Just kind of feel for it. See it right there? Literally just comes off. Take this off. Not tricky. But this is going to help fix that coasting sweep. Hopefully. I tried that. Tried the chassis. It didn't work. You got 2 capacitors. That could be the problem. That bolt will come out when you do it. Then you come down here. There's a flash bolt right here. Kind of in there. You feel for it. You put your Allen head on it. Take your wrench. Literally. Sockets work also. Take this out. Some of those may stay in there. That's fine, we can deal with that. Next thing you want to do, grab your pry bar, kind of reach in there. Literally, it's just a matter of if you put a little pressure like this, the sweep's going to move. Sometimes you can get those out. It's not easy, but see how it's moving off. Once that releases, that sweep's going to fly forward. It's no big deal. But you just put your hand right here, kind of hold pressure, kind of lift up, kind of rock it back and forth. When you get it to this point, you can pretty much just kind of rock it back and forth. And as you can see, gearbox and motor come off. Pull your bolts out. Now the fun part. You can stop it. I gotta give it a second. So now that you got that done, makes life a little bit easier. This will move with the sweep. The sweep's gonna obviously drift down. So what I do is I usually have this down already, kind of ready to go. And the first thing I am going to try to do is see if it's going to fit on there like this. You kind of possibly rock it back and forth. That actually fit. That was good. If it doesn't fit, what you do before you put it on is you reach down here and you grab your sweep. And it's stuck right there. If it was undone, it would literally free motion back and forth. And what I would do is I've got my gearbox kind of on this support. I've got my foot back behind the sweep, and I'm able to pull the sweep back and forth to rotate this till it splines up. It didn't need splines. It went back on pretty solid. So you push it down a little, and then you start putting these bolts back in. They may be a little tricky, so you take your pry bar, you go right underneath here, and you gently raise it up. And that's going to allow those bolts to sit flush. What I do is I put these like this. On these, the trick is always carry a flashlight with you. And then you drop it. That's normal. You come back in here, and it's just going to go back through that hole right there. So what you can do is take you a little bit of grease from the table drive here, whatever, put it on there. Kind of a balancing act. You're gonna kind of line it up with a hole right there. And you see how that's not wanting to go? If you take this and you raise it up a little, it comes right in, put your bolt on it, or your nut on the bolt, and it's literally that screw, that one, and then there's one down there. Then once you get to that point, you can start tightening it back together. We'll show you how to, when we plug it back in, what happens. This is going to just fit down here. I prefer a light. It really does help, because the bottom one, and an Allen head that doesn't have the piece on it works just as good, because it's hard to get your hand in here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it with this one. I like the ones that don't have the balls on them. Based on the fact that it's a lot easier to get to. You just gotta, with those, you gotta be real slow. But you come in, you kind of look back here to see where the hole is. Found the hole. It still doesn't want to come through very good. So again, once you get it there, kind of raise it up, kind of move it around. There it goes. Take your nut, you put it on. And while I've got that back one already secured, I just take my wrench. I tighten them down pretty tight. Come up to this one. Flip it around, tighten it up. Again, this one, you have to access it back here. You just, that tool goes in there. Holds this on, you can kind of get it where you want to by hand. Save you some wrench time. Tighten it up till it's tight. Literally after that, and it's the same process for the table, minus you have to support the table. Literally after that, you've got MP chassis like we've got. It's the same. Plug your motor back in. Always do that. Check your clicks on to make sure. Again, you can run it with the TA. I left all the motors on, so we're going to hit the cycle button on our MP chassis. Now, what I was explaining earlier, that was been adjusted for the other deal. So now we're going to go in and adjust the cans to show you how to have that sweep drop perfectly. So we'll do that here in just a minute. Okay, so obviously I went the wrong way, which happens. I haven't done that in a few minutes. But I went in there and I undid this. I literally loosened this up and I rotated this back towards the back, bottom to the top, to drop that down. And I will back out of here and you'll notice that stops at guard. And that's where it's supposed to be. There's no more coast. That's good. I gotta go turn the pit on, get the pins to cycle through. That's it. That's how you change the gearbox on a sweep. The table again, same way as far as changing the gearbox. The only difference is you drop the table down, supporting, get the weight off of the table, have it supported by a block, and then you drop your sweep so that you have access to it. To get it out, undo the 3 bolts, slide the gearbox off, put the new gearbox on, plug in, take it away. Yeah, that's pretty much it.